You've probably heard of GitHub Copilot and you've probably used it. And one of the questions I get asked all the time is, will tools like GitHub Copilot and Tab 9 replace my job? Is it still worth learning to code in 2022? Well, the answer is yes. It's definitely the short answer. You should. Yes, there are low-code solutions and no-code solutions, but they're not replacing our jobs. And GitHub Copilot and Tab 9 and tools like that are going to grow and get more popular, and they're here to help us do our job, not to replace us. And if one day in 100 years, maybe they did, someone still needs to code those tools, so code is always going to be needed. But let's go into the details. But before we do, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe below if you haven't already, and hit the bell button to get notified every time I post a video and go live. I'm not here to talk about all the features of Copilot and why you should use it, but I want to talk about what, when, and how you should use it. So let me give you an example. Some people who are new to tech, let's use the word junior. I don't like that term, but for this video, let's just use that. Let's say they're a junior and they say, Eddie, hey, I want to use Copilot. Should I or should I not? I think it's a question I get asked almost every day. The answer is yes and no. And let me explain why. I think it's important that you do use it, because if you had the opportunity to pair with someone, you would, right? And so you've got this AI pairing tool that is there to help you and assist you. It's not always right. I didn't realize how much I use it until I had lost internet on a plane or on a ferry. Then I realized it's not auto-completing for me, and I realized how much actually I want to use it. So it's something I use a lot. But if someone new to tech, I think it's to find a balance. You should use it sometimes, but not all the time, because it's important to grow the skills of searching Google, looking at documentation before searching Google. Definitely look at documentation. I think that skill is really important to get better at and develop. And a lot of people don't practice that. So I'd highly recommend doing that first. Maybe for work, if you're allowed to use Copilot, then for your side project or your learning projects, don't use Copilot. Or vice versa. Whereas if for your work you're not allowed to use Copilot, that's fine, because some companies do not allow it. Then for your side projects or learning projects, I think you should use Copilot. You'll get to see a different perspective. And that's what pairing with people is like. If you're pairing with someone at a hackathon, a friend, your mentor, you're going to see their perspective. They're not always going to give you the right answer, but they're going to give you an answer, and then you can make your own decision from that. You can build on that. Same with tools like Copilot. They're there to give an answer. Not always the correct answer, actually most of the time, not the correct answer, but it gives you an answer nonetheless. And it's usually kind of a crowdsourced answer, so you can see what most people are doing. The biggest difference here is when a version gets bumped and there's breaking changes, you might get older changes and it doesn't work. People still use Stack Overflow, and some of the information, actually a lot of the information on there is out of date, and they wonder why it doesn't work because they've got an old version or something. So definitely do check the versions and the dates when using Stack Overflow. But for Copilot, that's a little bit more difficult, but it's always learning, always improving all the time. And it's really fast. I really like it. It always gives me a suggestion, and most of the time something that works. Once I've got it working, I can improve it, tweak it, and look at the documentation, see what the best practices and recommendations are to do. To conclude, I think a lot of these tools are really, really useful. I mean, if you had assisted braking like ABS on your car, would you not use it? Does it replace the driver from using the brakes? No, they still need to use the brakes. It just makes it a better experience for the driver. And the same when we're driving our code or writing our code, it just makes it that little bit easier, nicer, and gives a different perspective. So I would recommend using it, but also within kind of a balance. I'm quite bad. I use it a lot, so I do forget things all the time. But luckily on live streams, GitHub Copilot is there to save me, or most of the time, actually, the people in the chat are there to fix Copilot and to fix me and make it a lot better, which is always quite fun. We get the engagement there, but you don't need to remember all the syntax of code. So that's why it's okay to not remember everything, because you can look it up in documentation and so forth. But I suppose using tools like GitHub Copilot, you are going to remember things less because you rely on the tool quite a lot. Well, I know I do. I find that I rely on the tool so much that I don't quite remember things, and I just hope Copilot saves me. And like I said, it usually does. And I can usually tell, well, that's correct, or actually that's not quite right, but I'll accept it and tweak it and make it correct. So I do recognize what is right. And sometimes it gives me some suggestions that I would never have thought of. And I think, I wouldn't do it that way, but it's good to be aware of that. Or, oh, wow, I actually didn't think of doing it that way. That's really good. One example, I've seen people kind of write a map with all these kind of switch statements and so forth, and they could just do that really nicely with a reduce. So therefore, I think it's good to see what other people do, and GitHub Copilot will show that to us. Let me know in the comments below what you think and if you use it and if you think it's going to replace our jobs. But don't be scared of it. You should embrace these tools. It's going to allow us to work a lot more efficiently and make more progress faster.